Hey guys, Nubkeks here and welcome back to my Heroes of the Storm 2.0 beta coverage. In today's video we are going to be talking all about Genji, the newest hero being added to the game, coming straight from Overwatch. Of course, he is the fourth Overwatch hero alongside Tracer, Zarya and Lucio. And we are of course playing on the first Overwatch map, which is Hanamura. There should already be a video up on the channel which has covered that in detail. So yeah, I mean, going over Genji, you can see me throwing out some of his abilities there and hovering the tooltips. If you want to pause the video at those, you can. But basically to cover them real quick, and then we'll jump into the talents for level 1. Your trait is Cyber Agility. So obviously Genji can double jump in Overwatch, but that's an FPS. It doesn't translate really into Heroes of the Storm. So the way they did it was to give him Cyber Agility. You can activate this trait to do a sort of short range jump. And cool enough, you can hop over terrain, so you can jump over walls, over rocks, over forts, all that sort of stuff. So it gives you some nice mobility to play with. Actually, before I tell you his other basic abilities, his basic attack is much like Lucio's is in the game at the moment. Instead of being like a single shot, he fires off 3 shurikens. So it's kind of like 3 mini basic attacks in one. You should see some of that right here. It's basically his standard attack from Overwatch. So, you know, obviously the implications of that tactically is that it could shred through block stacks quite quickly. So that's something to bear in mind with Genji, because it is those 3 mini basic attacks in one basic attack effectively. Shuriken, his Q ability, is much like his alternate fire from Overwatch. You fire out 3 shurikens in a spread pattern. It's a skill shot. Interesting thing about this, look at the charges here. Boom, once the cooldown expires, you get all 3 charges back at once, which is pretty neat, I think. No, the thing is that it does low damage, but the big thing here, I think, as you can see, we've got mana, right? Which obviously Genji doesn't have in Overwatch. It doesn't exist in Overwatch. That'll definitely be a new aspect of Genji's gameplay in this particular game that's not there, which is, okay, for example, with the shurikens, we get, 3 charges every time the cooldown goes off. Do we want to spend all those charges for a bit of extra poke, a bit of extra wave clear? Or do we want to maybe conserve those and conserve some mana for when a team fight comes around or an objective comes around that we want to fight over? So I think that's pretty intriguing. His W is Deflect. We'll jump to the talents after that. Don't worry, we'll get into those. But Deflect is his W. You press this, you become protected for 1.25 seconds. So protected, in case you guys don't know, you take no damage. However, you can still be affected by crowd control. You can see me activating it right there. And you see that little targeting reticle? This will prioritize heroes. Obviously, there's a medium sort of range on this. And every time you get attacked, you throw out a kunai, which is basically like a little Japanese knife, I think, which is a small amount of damage. So I think this will scale really well in heroes off the number of times you're attacked. So for example, Tracer, who attacks very quickly, I think will trigger multiple kunais. So that will do the most damage, whereas let's say getting hit by a Pyroblast, which is a single hit, but hits really hard, will only fire off 1 kunai. So I think that's how it's gonna work. Now there is a talent later on, I think it's level 16, which does reflect actually the raw damage. So that could tie in quite nicely to countering some particular heroes and attacks and stuff like that. Then finally, and then we'll jump into the talents, Swift Strike, which is your E ability. It's very narrow, long range dash. There it is right there. One of the cool things about this is that it resets if an enemy hero that you hit with it dies within 2 seconds of being hit. It will give you back the mana and it will completely refresh the cooldown. So definitely opening up some high skill cap Genji plays, dashing into the enemy team, getting a kill, dashing back out again, or just chaining multiple Swift Strikes together. And it will also synergize very nicely with his heroic Dragon Blade, which we'll come to in a little bit here. But first of all, let's jump in to the talents, because we have already gone through a couple of talent tiers here in the game. And after going through the talents for the levels we've covered, I'll start talking a bit about Genji's gameplay. What does he feel like to play? What are his strengths and weaknesses? Where is he going to fit in the meta? All that sort of stuff. I'm obviously skipping over anything to do with Hanamura, the map, at least in the early part of this video, because it's got so much stuff to cover. But I do have, like I said, a video specifically dedicated to that, where I explain all the map mechanics in case you're kind of going, what's all this new stuff happening? You can figure it out and find out about it there. So level 1, you got 3 options. And I'll pop these up on screen as a little bonus thing so that you can have a visual reference as well. But you have Swift as the Wind, which is an upgrade for your E, your Swift Strike, that big long range dash, which is whenever you hit an enemy hero with it, you increase your movement speed by 30% for 3 seconds. So again, just giving you a bit of extra mobility when you do jump in to the fights. A kind of cool one, you got two then other options. They're all around movement, okay, at level 1, for improving cyber agility, which is your trait, which is that short range jump, which can go over terrain. Number 1, you've got agile dismount. So while you're mounted, it improves the range of your trait, your little jump on your trait, as you saw right there, by 70%. So you can jump way faster when you do it from a mounted position. And then it reduces the cooldown by 5 seconds when you jump from your mount as well. Then the other option, more generally useful, which I took in this particular game, is called Pathfinder, which is whenever you jump over terrain with cyber agility, you increase Genji's movement speed by 25% for 6 seconds. So that's a pretty long buff, and it's a pretty sizable buff as well. So I figured in this particular map, seeing as we're, as you can see, like there's that little pond area, there's these rocks to the left, there's a big rock to the bottom, surrounded by the brushes. There's loads of little bits of terrain here on this particular map. So I said, you know what, I think this will be pretty good. You know, we can surprise people escorting the payload or make a sneaky escape, all that sort of stuff. So that's why I went for that in this particular game. At level 4 then, we have, yeah, I'll try not cover up the talents because we need to pick our level 7 talent here in game as well. But yeah, level 4, you have, again, 3 options. The one I went for in this game is a Q talent. It's a questing talent. You can see it building up on the bottom left-hand side there. It's called Shuriken Mastery, and it's a quest to hit enemy heroes with your shurikens, with your Q. Once you've hit them 35 times, 35 heroes hit, it improves the damage of shurikens by 30. So a little bit of extra damage per shuriken, which is quite nice. And then once you've hit 75 heroes, your cyber agility will refund 2 charges of shuriken. I'm not sure how useful that will be. We'll see. There's definitely some combos with other shuriken talents later on that could open up. But yeah, I thought that would be really good at first. I was like, awesome, that's way more damage. Of course, at the time when I chose the talent in this game, I hadn't realized that you get all 3 charges back at 1 anyway. But there is a talent later on, which is if you hit a hero with all 3 shurikens, you do bonus damage. So, you know, definitely you could add a lot of burst damage then using this Shuriken Mastery talent, getting more damage per shuriken and then getting some extra ones out as well. The other options at level 4, you have an activatable ability called Dragon Claw, which ties into Deflect, which is whenever you've blocked a certain amount of damage, quite a big chunk. I think the default is 400 damage, and I think it scales with Deflect. You can activate this, probably on your number 1 key, Dragon Claw ability, which will do a moderate amount. By default, it's about 200 damage to all nearby enemies, so a bit of an extra AoE. It's much the same, I think, as Cassia's level 7 one. I can't think of the name of it at the moment. Surge of Life, something like that. But you know, you can build this up, and then once you've stored up enough damage absorbed with Deflect, you'll be able to activate this ability for a bit of extra burst damage. Could be quite good. I've really no idea. I'm really not sure with any of Genji's talents, to be honest, because he's so new. And so different and such a high skill cap hero that I'm really not sure, you know, which talents will be the best. That's not something I can tell you in this particular video. The other level 4 talent there is for called Strike at the Heart, which is for your E ability. So enemies hit by the end of your swift strike, so that long range dash that does damage, will take an extra damage over 2 seconds. So, you know, definitely a lot of skill in that to line up the end of that long range dash with the enemy heroes. But yeah, could add some nice extra sort of damage there as well. Level 7 then, you got 4 options. I'll try to get through these a little bit quicker, so we're coming up to the... Actually, I'll mention the heroic and then we'll jump into level 7, seeing as the heroic is so important. You have 2, you see me popping it right here. This is Dragon Blade. So you pull out your Dragon Blade and yeah, it lasts, I think it's 8 seconds for that one. Yeah, so unleash the Dragon Blade for 8 seconds, and then while it's active, you still have your Swift Strike, your dash, you still have Cyber Agility, which is your little hop, you still have Deflect, which is your W, but your Shurikens, your Q, your basic attack is gone. You don't have a basic attack with the sword out. Instead, your Heroic button and your Q button get replaced by Dragon Blade, and you can press that button to basically lunge forward and do this massive cleave attack in front of you, which actually hits really, really hard. So this just is going to have huge impact in a team fight. I'm going to put up a second Genji video where I'm a bit more comfortable with the hero, and it actually was like a really tough game. We're up against a few of the pro players who were there at the event, And yeah, it's pretty cool. You see him being a little bit more comfortable and getting some nice like Dragon Blade, like Genji kill streak kind of things. So you can stay tuned for that. I can't remember how he did in this game. Probably not that well, seeing he's super new. But yeah, it seems like a massively impactful and powerful heroic. Like you can just burst, like just do so much damage in a team fight, hitting people with this. Another cool aspect of Dragon Blade is also that if a hero dies within 2 seconds, of being hit by Dragon Blade, if you kill them with Dragon Blade attack, it will refresh your E as well. So that is pretty intense. It's pretty damn powerful. But you can imagine like just stringing together these Dragon Blade strikes with your Swift Strike as well. Pretty scary stuff. Like Genji can change so quickly from being this sort of low damage pokey hero to being this, I'm just gonna pull out my sword and just start going ham and shredding through all of you guys. There you go. If an enemy hero is killed by Dragon Blade, it resets the Swift Strike. That's what it is. So yeah, there you go. You have to land the killing blow with Dragon Blade to reset the Swift Strike. But yeah, that's still pretty good. No, it's within being hit by 2 seconds. Sorry, I don't have. They gave us like a fact sheet. It doesn't have all the details. Literally, all it says is unleash the Dragon Blade. So I'm trying to read that text real quick when it pops up on screen. Level 7, you had 4 options here. Augmented Guard, you got a bunch that basically they're all defensive stuff at level 7, and then we'll hop over to level 13 real quick too. So level 7, you had Augmented Guard, so when deflect ends, you gain a shield equal to half the damage you absorbed for 4 seconds, so kind of useful if you're guaranteed to absorb a lot of damage. You can also get Perfect Defense, which is what I picked up in this one, which as you absorb more and more deflected damage, it reduces the cooldown of your deflect more and more and more. It's already a really long cooldown, right? So I figured this would be a great one to pick. It can reduce it up to a maximum of 10 seconds, so you'd have to absorb a crazy amount of damage. Genji dual hype, you'd have to absorb a crazy amount of damage to make that happen, I assume. But I figured that'd be kind of nifty. Anyway, right there, we're super lucky in that one. I didn't play that well, but you can see just how difficult it's gonna be to kill this guy. Like, it's gonna be crazy. At level 7, 2 more options then. You dodge, so you're basically it's kind of like super block. You dodge completely basic attack from a hero every 5 seconds, and you can store up to 3 charges of that, so going to be very effective against, you know, Greymane or the Butcher, someone like that. And then Cyber Shield at level 7 as well, so whenever you use your jump, your Cyber Agility, you get 50 spell armor for 2 seconds, so that could be pretty damn strong as well. Hopefully you're already getting an insight into how high the skill cap Genji is, playing around some of these really short durations on your deflect, on your resets and all that sort of stuff to get the most out of this guy. Level 13, you got kind of a couple of mobility options and then one sort of damage option. So you have Shingan, which is an upgrade for your Q, which I already mentioned this earlier, but if you hit an enemy with all 3 of your shuriken, you deal 120 bonus damage. So that could be pretty nice, especially combined with the Shuriken Mastery here at level 4. But yeah, I mean, hitting people basically in point blank melee range, hit them with all 3 shuriken and you'll do an extra chunk of damage. So that could be some nice extra burst damage right there. You also have got Flow Like Water, which is an upgrade for your Swift Strike, which is each enemy hero hit by Swift Strike will reduce the cooldown by 3 seconds. So could... You know, like, obviously you get the reset if they die within 2 seconds, but let's say you could then use it more. You could dive through the entire enemy team, get this massive cooldown reduction, and then Swift Strike back through them. I don't know, it could go horribly wrong, but it could make some nice plays as well. And then what I went for in this game, which was Double Jump. So you get 2 charges of Cyber Agility. Thank you for pausing the game. I will resume in a second. This will let me finish these talents. And it does increase, however, the cooldown of Cyber Agility by 5 seconds. But, so basically you got the trade-off of having the shorter cooldown, but 1 charge, which is the default, or getting an extra charge, so extra stuff to play with there, but having the longer cooldown. So I think that's pretty cool. You can see our Muradin was having issues. I don't think the pause lasts too long, so I won't edit this out. But yeah, Muradin was having issues, so he disconnected. Eventually, I think we just kept playing with the bot. Muradin taken over, I think, one of the PCs. I think the mouse stopped working or something like that. But yeah, I mean, there you go. Again, like the talent build I went for on Genji in this particular game is not supposed to be representative. It looks like we can attack that wall. That has to be a bug. Look, the top wall there is an enemy wall. That can't be right. That can't be right. Anyway, yeah, like this is not necessarily by any means the best Genji build. This is what I went for in this particular game. But you definitely have got like a bunch of options. Again, we'll cover the other talents when we get to those tiers. in terms of, you know, building a deflect focus build is definitely possible. There is a level 20 talent where you have to block 6,500 damage over the course of the entire game, and then it will reward you with being able to deflect and throw kunai at every single hero within range. So doing loads of damage potentially with deflect. You really have to have made the most out of it over the course of the game. Here we've got Pop Dragon Blade. You can see we're trying to do as much damage as we can, trying to get some kills here. We managed to get 1 kill with the help of our team. Now Sergeant Hammer, she's way behind enemy lines. We're just going to jump on top of her and she's taken out without too much hassle. We're going to dash through and try to take out Leoric. Now he doesn't die within 2 seconds, so that means we don't get a reset. But yeah, and hop over the wall for style points, even though our team are still fighting. Whoops, we probably should be in there. Oh well. But I mean, yeah, definitely like learning the maps and learning like where you can dash through and then hop over a wall, all that sort of stuff. Like you could do some really aggressive dives and then get out. There's such a huge skill cap for Genji. Like I'm really excited to see what people can make happen with this hero as they kind of learn the intricacies. Like seeing like pro players and so on, like once they get their hands on this guy, get to play a few games and figure out exactly how he works. It could be pretty freaking awesome. Right here you can see I was gonna do this like fancy flip over terrain and then whoops, oh shit, you can actually walk through this bridge. That's a disaster. And we once again, I think for the second time in this game, escape with like 10 or 20 HP, something like that. We'll take the escape. But I mean, Genji, one thing I found is that his damage, like his wave clear is pretty terrible. I'll talk about the level 16 talent in a sec. The wave clear, he seems pretty bad, so he's going to be pretty bad at the solo lane. But one thing about him is that he seems like he's going to be really difficult to kill. Like, so long as you've got that E, your Swift Strike available, it's such a massive range on that dash. It just seems impossible that you could actually get a kill on this guy. He seems borderline ungankable unless you really surprise him and get him somewhere he's not comfortable. Once again, we're going to pop our Dragon Blade here. And so trying to reposition to get the best angles to make sure we can hit Cassia with those Dragon Blade attacks. In that case, we used it for 1 kill. But I mean, again, you can imagine the potential of Dragon Blade, like just glorious like mosh pit. 5 enemy team members caught in the mosh pit and you're just doing these beautiful Dragon Blades hitting every single person. It could be crazy. It could be crazy. Absolutely crazy. Level 16 talents, let's cover those. So you have 3 options at level 16. You have Reflect, which is what I grabbed in this game. So bringing Deflect a bit more into making it a bit more similar to what you would expect as an Overwatch player. This will Deflect deal bonus damage equal to 33% of the damage you block. So let's say, for example, again, Pyroblast, great example, hits you really, really hard. You deflect that with the Reflect talent here at level 16 and it will do tons of bonus damage. Final Cut, you've got 2 options here, sorry, for your Swift Strike, so for your E ability as well. Final Cut is the first one, so after 1 second, your E will do an additional attack. So basically you'll do your dash and you'll leave this sort of air trail behind you which will explode a second later and do bonus damage to everyone left in it. Very, very narrow, but it can do some nice damage, especially with resets. Over here, I think I screw up this fight big time. So we didn't time that well. I mean, we died with our E. Like I was saying, that really shouldn't happen. But, oh well, bit of a Genji noob at this time. Steady Blade then is your other option at level 16. So each enemy hero hit by Swift Strike will improve the damage of the next Swift Strike by 20%. And you could stack this up to 3 times. So if you hit 3 heroes, that's 60% bonus damage on your next Swift Strike. So, I mean, you got some cool options there. Remember, there was the talent earlier on, which gave you cooldown reduction. That was at level... what level was that one? That was level... was it 13? Yeah, it's level 13, so you get a 3-second cooldown reduction every time you hit a hero. So, I mean, if you hit 3 heroes with that level 13 talent and this level 16 talent, you'll knock 9 seconds off the Swift Strike cooldown, and then your next one will hit way harder, so that will be some, like, good Swift Strike damage, even if you're not getting those resets. Could be kind of cool. And, yeah, that's sort of the options right there. Now, right here you could see that we are like approaching the end of the game. There's only 1 HP left in the enemy's core, so if we push in this payload, we will win the game regardless of what the enemy does. So kind of making a beeline here for that payload, try to push it in as quick as possible and see if we can secure a sneaky victory, though level 20 is also approaching quite quickly. I think this Genji duel is a big fail for me. You can see we're missing pretty much all of our Dragon Blade attacks. We're successfully swinging past Genji. It takes skill to miss that successfully, I'm telling you. A lot of skill to be that bad. I try my best. Level 20 talents, we have hit level 20. So you got 4 options here. The upgrade for Dragon Blade, the Dragon Becomes Me, is whenever you hit an enemy hero with your Dragon Blade attack, it increases the duration by 1 second, which seems really good. Like just extra time because you're just so powerful when you got your Dragon Blade out. Pretty awesome. The other options, we got Nano Steel Shuriken. So your Shuriken will pierce all enemies, so that's your Q ability. So that could work nicely with some of the Q talents. And then you've got Zan Shin, which I mentioned already, which is a quest to block 6,500 damage with Deflect. Seems very difficult to do. I don't know exactly how that will work out. But if you block that much damage over the course of the entire game, you'll finish that quest, and the reward is that Deflect will hit all nearby enemy heroes. So you'll be throwing kunai at everyone, and you could imagine like with Reflect at level 16, which is reflecting that raw 33% damage if you get focused in the team fight. I mean, it's only that 1.25 second window, but you could do insane damage with that, potentially. Just before we end as well, I'll go over his other heroic, which is X Strike. I didn't show it in this game, we didn't see it at all. But basically you kind of disappear, you become totally invulnerable for like a second or a second and a half, something like that. And you draw this big X on the ground, and then that explodes and does damage to anyone standing on the X. And you can upgrade that at level 20 with Living Weapon, which will reduce the cooldown of that by 12 seconds for every hero hit. I think the heroic is a pretty short cooldown anyway. So I think from the guys that were playing there, we generally found X Strike to be much less useful than Dragon Blade, but it will surely have a place. It'll just be a matter of figuring out exactly what it is. But for the moment, Dragon Blade, the heroic, seems to be where it's at. So yeah, guys, that is Genji. He seems really cool. He's a ton of fun, and very much like Genji from Overwatch. High skill cap hero. You're playing around, like I said, a lot of these really short windows of opportunity, and it'll be all about knowing the times to go in, the times to, you know, flank, to be aggressive in your movement. I think he's a very cool hero to add to the game. He will no doubt be the bane of many people's Hero League experience. You know, he's kind of like the new Illidan that way, that dude who always locks in Illidan and does terrible. Well, a lot of those guys will no doubt be migrating over to Genji once he releases. Because, you know, he's pretty cool. He's a cyber ninja. It's pretty cool, you know. It's a pretty appealing thing to play. And when you do pull off like one of those, a big reset combo, it just feels insanely good. But yeah, I think he's cool. I think he's very difficult to play, and I don't think that's a bad thing. I think it's a nice thing to add to the game, more of these high skill cap heroes. Again, this sort of, he's a ranged assassin, but then in a lot of ways he plays more like a melee assassin. He's not at all, let's say, like Vala is, like Vala, very much the ranged assassin. He's not like a mage. He's this very, very different type of hero. It's much more assassiny and ambush type hero, which is kind of a bit more unique in terms of heroes that do that when they're ranged. So I think it's cool. There you go, guys. Give the video a thumbs up if you like that look at Genji. And like I said, there will be another Genji video up where I play the hero a little bit better and get actually some resets, so you can kind of see the reset combo in action and some nice Dragon Blades and stuff like that. So do check out that video. It should be up maybe tomorrow. And like I said, there's a Hanamura video focusing on the map up. There should be a video looking at sort of the early build of the Uther rework, and then some of the other skins. So loads of content for all the Overwatch stuff and all the Heroes 2.0 stuff that's being added. And this is basically everything we learned when we were in Paris is going to be out in these videos over the course of these early days of the week. So I do hope you enjoy, and I hope to catch you in those. Should be buttons up on the screen to subscribe, and you can support me on Patreon or check out another video if you want, all that sort of stuff. Guys, thank you for watching. I'll catch you all next time. Bye-bye.